All right, so today we're going to kick things off with the introduction to resumes and power statements. So the first thing is, what is a resume? I don't know if y'all can see my little next slide screen. It's kind of giving away the answer. Let me see if I can stop this and put it back into normal mode. There we go. Nope, that didn't work.
You should go to the slideshow, then you see the option there.
Now it doesn't want to work for me. Oh man. And my incompetence is currently being recorded. All right, well, I totally messed it up. We'll just have to go like this then. Okay, so what is a resume? Can I have two people come off of mute and share with us what is a resume?
Quick overview of your skills and applicable knowledge to whatever job application you're applying for.
Perfect. And one more person to add to that.
I'd say it's more for your experiences and your strength, so that for the further job that you're applying for.
Thank you. Yes. I'm still trying to get this working. Yeah, so both of those are correct. And it says here that it's a sales pitch from beginning. Let's try this one more time. Nope. Okay. So it says here that it is a sales pitch for yourself as a job candidate, or if you think about it like an advertisement. Recruiters will use it to help decide if they want to speak to you. And traditionally, what's happening right now, especially in the tech industry, is that once they have an interest in your resume, then they'll reach out to you for a phone screen or a phone interview. And then after you go through that round, then you might have an interview with the manager. And that, of course, right now would probably be over video. And then they might eventually invite you in to meet with the team, which might also be happening right now on video. But it typically happens in person for you to get a chance to feel the culture, see if there's a good team fit. So I would say most have 3 interviews before being offered a job. Of course, that depends for each different role, and the timeline changes and depends on also their need. Maybe they'll speed things along and you'll get the job after the first interview.
Alyssa?
Yes.
Can you try to uncheck the use register view on the, let's see, on the right? You see the, uncheck that? Then you can try it.
On the right.
Oh,
Yeah.
like where?
Yeah, use present. Yeah, you can try it.
It's like not letting me.
Does the little split screen option, like the hide slide, not video?
It just seems like it doesn't like me. Okay, we're just gonna stop sharing. Try this one more time. So what's happening is it's automatically putting that to my secondary screen, which I don't want it on, because then it blocks all of you. Let's try it one more time. Okay. Can you all see that? Okay. Hopefully it's sharing where I want it to. Okay. Clicking. All right, so totally skipped that other slide. All right, so here is what the Year Up template looks like. So it's a sample resume, just some things to note. So it has it broken off by section here. At the top of almost every resume you're ever going to write, year up format or not, it's going to have your first name and your last name, your full name. There is advice to list your government name, what they would find on your birth certificate. However, if you do have a nickname, you could put that in parentheses or let them know when you first day on the job. Yes, this is my given name, but I prefer to go by this name. So if your name is Jonathan, but you like to go by John, rather than just putting John on your resume, I would suggest to put Jonathan. Then you'll also list below, it says here your city, your phone number, and your email address, your professional email address. The only difference on the one that we're providing you today is that it also adds your LinkedIn profile as a secondary line underneath your initial contact information. So that way they could easily access your LinkedIn profile as a secondary version of your resume.
Alyssa?
Mhm.
Should you put like your ID name or the name that you prefer to go by?
So I would say just for legal reasons, and they're gonna, like, if you are offered the job, then they're gonna cross-check your background and that kind of stuff. It's probably best to put your government name, but then put your in parentheses your given or the name that you prefer to be called.
Okay, thank you.
Everything that you're going to hear me say today, there could also be another resume expert who says the exact opposite. So just know that there is no set 100% perfect resume formatting or suggestions. It's up to you to determine which ones are valid, what advice you're given is valid. And this really just speaks to our experience as adults. You're sometimes given advice by one person that is counterintuitive to something that somebody else will say. And you have to determine which one is going to be right for you. So in this case, I'm going to suggest that you format it like that. But if somebody else might come along and say, no, you should only write your given name, or I'm sorry, your preferred name on your resume. So just know pretty much everything that we're going to cover, there's somebody else who might say differently. So you got to shake it out for yourself. The second thing is the skills section. So Europe has preferred to put the skills section up at the top because it's very easy to see what you can bring, especially technical skills wise, to this job. So here they've sorted it into your software, hardware, and any project coordination skills you have. The one thing I would say I don't like about this resume is that it really shouldn't be super in-depth and using it's kind of wordy. I guess that's the best way I'm saying it. So rather than just saying proficiency in Microsoft SharePoint, maybe just putting Microsoft SharePoint. And then they can ask about it. Obviously, if you're not proficient in it, you wouldn't put it on your resume in the first place. I'll show you some of the sample resumes that just have kind of 1 or 2 word answers for that. The next one is the experience section. And this, I'm going to clarify, is paid experience. So any work experience where you were paid. Granted, if you don't have any work experience where you were paid, then you would change that to say experience. And I think on the one that we have, the more updated Europe resume, it says relevant experience. So that would be jobs where you were paid, and there will be a chance to list 3 different jobs that you've had. If you haven't had 3 jobs, you'll take off the 3rd one and just delete that. You'll only list 2. If you've had 4 or 5 jobs, what you're going to do is look at the jobs you're going into and determine which ones are more relevant and recent than the other. If you had a job that only was maybe 3 months versus a job you were at for 3 years, you might want to consider that as well. They might then ask you about the gaps on your resume or gaps in work experience, and you could just explain that in person. I know that some of you, unfortunately, were laid off from your jobs because of COVID-19. Really hope you're able to get those jobs back when everything dies down. But please add that work experience onto your resumes as the most recent work. And then your end date. You could either list it as present if they've told you that you're furloughed, or if they officially laid you off and they're not sure if you're able to come back, you could just list the end date as March 2020 or April 2020. And then, of course, explain that to them. If they say, so why were you out of work? Say, I was focusing on my education by attending Europe for training, and or you could even just mention COVID-19. I'm pretty sure that HR going forward is going to be trained to understand what's going on right now. You'll see also within each of the sections, there are bullet point job descriptions, and those are called power statements. So we're going to go more in depth into those as well. What you're going to notice is numbers. There are some numbers here. So the ones that jump out, I see 650 plus site evaluation, 1,500 students, 25 credits. So adding those kind of numbers into your resume are called quantifiers, and we'll go into that as well. But those numbers speak to the efficiency or how much you're able to get done. You'll also notice that each of these starts with an action verb. So here we've got created and updated, conducted, participated, worked. Often what happens with your resume is you're going to try to elevate the job that you had and speak to the experience. You're not going to want to lie on your resume, but sometimes people exaggerate. So for example, if part of my job is to take out the trash, one person might put take out the trash. Somebody else might put maintain the cleanliness of the work environment. And it's the exact same thing. It's just about the way that you're saying it. So one sounds a little bit more elevated in like vocabulary. Sounds fancier, right? So sometimes we want to like boost up our skills by making them sound fancy. Another one, I heard someone say on their resume that they monitored the cash flow for a multi-billion-dollar business. And I was like, oh, that's fancy. And then they said, yeah, I was a cashier at McDonald's. I was like, okay. So it's up to you to determine how much you exaggerate that. But everything here, of course, is going to be true. So it's not like these people are falsely inflating the numbers or the actual work that they did. It's just about sounding fancier. And then the section. Here, people used to get college credits through Foothill, and so that's why it says Year Up/Foothill College. But you all will be getting your credits through ACE, so instead you can just list Year Up. And then some of the bullet points here. So what are some of your action items or your power statements regarding your experience here at Year Up? And so this would be an example. Someone else has also listed their volunteer experience. If you're going to add volunteer experience, I would recommend it be something where it's continuous, where you've been doing something for several years or just more than a few months, not just a once-off, like, oh, I went to go feed people at a shelter one time for 3 hours. I wouldn't necessarily put that on my resume, but if you're continuously going every weekend to feed people at the shelter, then that would definitely be something you could add on as experience. Not to say it's not valid work experience if you only do it once, but here I think they're looking for more of a consistent pattern and commitment. So what is a power statement? They are the core of any resume, and they're also determined to be the one thing that helps HR managers really determine if you're going to be a good fit for the job based on your past experiences. So there are bullet points under each job description that help describe what you did. I'm going to go through this pretty fast. All right, so here you can see the power statements. And again, they always start with an action verb. So you'll see those action verbs there. Even here, it starts with earned or completed or created, worked. There's going to be a list of action verbs that you can use, like just like I showed you, there was a skills bank. There's also an action words bank that you can go and refer to. Of course, you want to make sure that it's relevant to the job. So instead of saying, you know, you would say something about like operating machinery. Operate would be a really good one to use, but I don't operate a training session. I facilitate a training session. So I would use facilitate more so than operate. All right. So here's the anatomy of a power statement. So you'll see here it has an action verb and a result. The quantifier, which I talked about, which if you think about quantity, or if you ever took a quantitative statistics class, it's all about the number. So thinking about just actually seeing a number there. So it could be a percentage, or it could be a number of people that you served. For example, one of my previous coaches, she was re-imaging laptops for 100 new hires every week. So I said, okay, make sure to add that onto your resume. That 100 re-image laptops every week speaks more than just saying re-image laptops for new hires. There's an actual number to show how much you're able to. The qualifier here, it's a little bit harder to understand, but it's kind of like the root or the main source of like what your power statement is about. So what did you do? More of like the soft skills side, providing in-store and over the phone customer service. And then also another quantifier here is 5 gift cards. The result here is because of what you did, it resulted in this. So because you increased sales, it resulted in upselling 5 gift cards more per week. There's going to be a few more. So again, here's what I just described. I highly recommend to screenshot this right now if I were you. This is a really great kind of just overall view, and it helps give you some examples. So when you're working on your resume in a moment, you can quickly refer back to this. Of course, this PowerPoint is available for you in the Business 102 course, but having that screenshot right on hand on your desktop would probably be a really great resource. So again here, some action verbs like managed, analyzed, resolved, coordinated, presented. Just notice that they all start with a capital letter. So your power statement should always start with the bullet point, capital letter of your action verb. Quantifiers, so things like maybe as an IT help desk support, you processed 95 tickets per week, or that you served 200 people, or that there was a 90% speed increase or productivity because of something you implemented on your team. Qualifiers, again, are kind of the non-number specific details. So again, it's going to be some more of the skills like softwares that you know, or who was the person that you were supporting. And then the results were because of what you did, 8 new hires were trained. That's actually a quantified result. Maybe you were awarded Employee of the Month. So that's a slight way to like brag about your achievements. You know, what did you do? And that resulted in an award. And then also providing clarity to external clients. I think we're going to stop here so I can give you all the chance to start inputting the data from your resumes into your year up template. So let me stop here. Again, this PowerPoint continues on. We'll come back and reference that again later this week. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Question. What if our resumes like are pretty mirrored to that year up template already?
Great. You can always improve it.
No, yeah,
you can also help others.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm opening up in the Business 102 course again. Hopefully you all can find that as well. It is a document, so download it to your Microsoft Docs. I'm just downloading it right now so I can easily manipulate that. And then I'll share my screen. All right. So you should now be able to see this year up template. What I would recommend to do, the first thing is go up here, save as, to your desktop and rename it. So instead of class 24 Europe resume template, I would change this to AT_first draft, not like that. First, stop. I swear I type better when no one's watching. First draft, year up resume. Save. All right, now I can start editing this. Everything you'll see here in brackets should no longer have brackets by the time that you submit this to Schoology. So what I mean is, it just tells you that this needs to be changed. So instead, I'm going to change it to phone. Your phone number is really important. Just know that on Europe documents, that will be used, of course, if they need to contact you, but I won't be personally using your phone number for anything. Your email address, your professional email address, this should say, so please add your most professional email address. Some people use their year up email, and that's fine. You can also use the Gmail one that we created for BC, whichever one you think is easier for them to contact. City and state, so this is an option as well. Other people, I would say the last generation of people who were resume experts had people list their full address on their resume. And I would say that nowadays we don't typically do that. We just add our city and state. And then your LinkedIn profile URL right there. So you'll go in, you saw on the resume that I just showed you all, it had software, hardware, and then project coordination skills. This one looks a little bit different. Feel free to revise it if you choose, but it should have 9 skills up here. It shouldn't just have 3, it shouldn't have more than 9. So please keep it at 9 skills. And also know that your first draft resume is going to be about you going into internship. So everything you're going to put, pretend that you are in Mod 3. So in data, you're going to learn SQL. So you would probably put that as a software skill that you have. You don't have it right now, but you're going to have it. So it's not lying. This is going to be for your future self. So for IT, you might put ticketing systems or Windows and Mac operating system proficiency. Another thing to note is if you choose, some people do list beginner or intermediate in parentheses. So it tells the employer what their skill level is. So they don't expect you to be solid at Excel the day that you walk into the office if you put beginner next to it. But that's just something I prefer to do. It's not necessarily required. You could elaborate more in a job interview. As we go down, you'll see here, so it does say work experience instead of relevant experience, but just know it's relevant work experience. And everything in brackets, again, should be without brackets. If you're not comfortable with your power statement yet, don't worry, we're gonna get more experience in it. I'm gonna ask that you at least start by looking at action verbs and figuring out what kind of action verbs speak to that job. So if I was an employee at Little Caesars Pizza, tell me what are 3 action verbs that I could use to to potentially use for my bullet points. Feel free to come off of mute and share if you have an idea. So for Little Caesars Pizza, somebody who is a cashier but also making pizzas. Mohammed, what do you think? What might be an action verb for Little Caesars
Action
Pizza?
verb would be I'm not sure. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about Daniel? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a better one, but I was just gonna put like maintain, but I don't know. I was still thinking of like what I can say better than maintain.
Maintain, yep, that could work. What about create, in terms of creating a pizza specified to customer order? And then you could also mention the number of pizzas that you put out per hour. What about if you were in a lead position? What is something that you could list as a power statement?
Oversaw.
Oversaw, yes. Or trained. If you've ever trained a new hire employee, you can definitely add that onto your resume experience. All right, going down, again, here's the year up section. It has this quick little, and we could even call this an objective statement, where it explains to the person looking at the resume what year up is. They might not know, and so that kind of gives them a quick little introduction into it. So these are 3 suggested ways of adding power statements into your year up section. And then school 2, if you have any college course credits, I would add them there. If you don't have any college experience, but you do want to list your high school, you're welcome to. But it's assumed that because year up, in order to be in the year up program, you need to have graduated from high school or received a GED. So if you want to just have year up listed on your education section, that's fine too.
Alicia,
Yes.
how about like if you have been to college but you have not completed college, can you still list out the credits that you got so far?
Yeah, definitely. So what you could do there is list out the college, where it was, the months that you attended, the months and years that you attended. And then you could say pursuing a degree or courses completed in, and then list out those courses. So it doesn't necessarily have to have a graduation date, though if you do choose to go back to school after year up, you could plan ahead and say, okay, so if I want my bachelor's after year up, I'm going to finish year up in 2021, so then I'll need to do my master's and I'll graduate by 2024. So you can either put anticipated graduation date or when you attended and took those courses. The more relevant they are to the actual technical side of things. So if you've taken college courses in computer applications, that would definitely be something you'd want to add. But if you took something in like ceramics, that might not be as relevant for this resume specifically. And then if you are on the student outreach committee, you can definitely list that under other experience. You can also add if you have any other leadership or volunteer experience here. Cool. Okay, so you have maybe about 20 minutes now to go in and start working on this resume. I'm going to ask that everybody stay on video while they're working on it. And if you have a question, please come off of mute because I'm sure somebody else will have the same question.
You said these are going to be due next week?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're going to talk more about power statements and do an interactive around power statements on Monday next week. And so then my goal is for you all to submit your first draft resume by Wednesday of next week. Just know that we're going to have about 3 iterations of this. So you'll have a first draft resume, so that's you'll be able to submit that with your sample power statements. Then we're going to do a peer review round. So that will be your second draft resume. So you'll take the peer edits from first draft, and then you'll apply those into your second draft and submit that a week later, essentially. Then the third one will be your coaches. You're going to have your coaches or staff member review and give you feedback on your resume. And then after that, it's assumed that it's going to be pretty polished in terms of what you need at least before your internship. Just know that this is not going to be a final version of your resume, and it will never actually be a final version of your resume. I have a resume that I'm constantly updating and editing and adjusting for each new job application, but it's never in a final form. You're always going to be adding and revising your resume. So that's the rest of your career until retirement. You'll be constantly improving and adding to your resume. So I will never say there's going to be a final draft resume, but there will be a final that you'll submit and will be submitted for you when they're placing you at your internship. All right, so I will stop sharing my screen now.
If I, Alyssa, can I add an insight?
Please do, yes.
Yeah, so my aunt, she's currently a project coordinator at AMAT, which is Applied Materials. It's like this tech company out in Sunnyvale, and she's just telling me that like she constantly has 5 resumes in production at all times, that she's constantly editing and like making more I guess and bettering, and then always dropping those resumes in like different places, or I guess she's always continually applying even though she has her job and there's no like questionality there, just like in case she wanted to move on and move forward. So yeah, it's just like an insight from like the actual industry perspective.
I really appreciate that. Why do you think that she keeps her resume updated and keeps applying even though she's happy with her job?
I mean, you never know.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this as well in terms of job hunting and interviewing, but it's really great advice. No matter how happy you are in your job, there could be another company that could offer you twice what you're currently making. And if you are able to interview on the side and get a job offer, even if you're happy with your current company, you could use that new offer to leverage and bring to your manager and say, hey, listen, I'm really happy here and I want to stay with the team, but I've got a competing offer that is for $15,000 more than I'm currently making. Are you able to match that so that I can stay and continue working with this team? You know, and then that helps them determine, you know, okay, so we really like this employee, we want them to stay, but we're going to have to pay them better. Of course, you have to be careful when you do that because they could say, all right, cool, you found another company, bye. You know, we can't match that. We can't keep you happy. So, you know, that could tarnish your relationships with the current company. So you want to be subtle about that if you're doing that. But it's always really great to stay, to keep abreast of like what's going on in the industry and what the marketable skills that you have are and which ones can you also improve.
I think Kwanzaa brought up a good point because with project coordination, a lot of people there are, I can say, contracted or they're not there for like a, you know, the long term. That your position is very volatile, so it's very easy for something to happen and then, you know, you end up getting laid off. So I think for that position, definitely you have to be on your toes about that. But I feel like more of the hard positions with like hard skills, like the ones that we're doing for data analytics or whatever, like that's like once you get the skills and you're established in a company, it's very hard to remove you. And I'm saying it from the experience of my brothers who are both DA and previous year of students. And they also have friends who are in DA from previous cycles. So it's just like from what they tell me, this is what I gather from that.
Your brother went through Europe.
Yeah. Do you know Brian Brennan?
I think he was probably in the other LC.
You know, I think it's a cycle before you because I asked them if they ever had anyone named Melissa, and they said no. So
okay,
they're old. It's like way back.
Got it. Okay, so yes, really great insight. I'm going to ask if, especially during this topic on resumes, job searching, and interviewing as we go through Mod 2 and 3, if you have any of those insights, just like Kwanzaa shared and Alex shared, please speak and bring those up. I've got stories to share and stuff, but you all have your own personal experience to add into the mix, and that can really help us all develop. All right, so use this time right now. I'll stop the